Steelers Nation, take a deep breath, because what happened in Dublin wasn't just another regular season game. On paper, it looked simple, but on the field, it was a powerful statement. Explosive offense, relentless defense, and just the right amount of drama in the fourth quarter to keep every fan on the edge of their seat. The final score? 24-21. But let's be honest, this victory was far bigger than a 3-point margin suggests. The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't just beat the Minnesota Vikings. They delivered their most complete performance of the year. The kind of game that makes you believe the engine is finally firing on all cylinders. I kindly ask you to drop a like on the video to support our channel. Now tell me, Steelers Nation, was this the game you were waiting for to finally say the Steelers are back? Go Steelers! It looked like just another regular season game on paper, but what unfolded in Dublin had every element of a statement win. Fireworks on offense, grit on defense, and just enough drama in the fourth quarter to keep every single Steelers fan glued to their seat. The scoreboard read 24-21 at the end, but let's be honest, this was far more decisive than a 3-point margin suggests. The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't just beat the Minnesota Vikings, they showed us their most complete performance of the year, the kind of showing that makes you believe this team is finally starting to click on all cylinders. The story starts with the run game, where Kenneth Gainwell, pressed into action after the surprise inactive status of Jaylen Warren, delivered a performance that few expected. Nearly 100 yards on 19 carries, and not one, but 2 touchdowns. The kind of game where a backup proves he can carry the load when the team needs it most. Every carry was physical, every yard earned, and it completely silenced the doubts that the Steelers' offense couldn't function without Warren. Gainwell didn't just step in, he thrived. Then there was DK Metcalf, and if you thought he was already a superstar, today cemented it. 5 catches, 126 yards, and an electric 80-yard touchdown where he turned a simple dig route into a highlight reel play.
Aaron Rodgers hit him in stride, Metcalf hit the gas, and by the time he crossed the goal line, the stadium in Dublin erupted like Heinz Field on a Sunday night. These are the kinds of moments Pittsburgh brought Metcalf here for, explosive plays that changed the game in a heartbeat. And speaking of Rodgers, he continues to look more comfortable every week. 18 completions on 22 attempts, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and not a single wasted throw. He's not trying to play hero ball. He's doing exactly what this team needs, efficient, calculated football that keeps drives alive and puts points on the board. The defense had its fingerprints all over this win too. Yes, Carson Wentz put up yardage, but every time the Vikings looked like they might claw back, Pittsburgh made the stop they needed. Keanu Benton disrupted the pocket all afternoon, finishing with a sack and a half and 3 quarterback hits. Nick Herbig, filling in for Alex Highsmith, was relentless, beating one of the league's best left tackles in Christian Darrisaw and proving he deserves a role even when Highsmith returns. And Peyton Wilson, a player many had criticized, delivered a redemption game, 13 tackles, a key stop at the goal line, and the kind of hustle play that prevents touchdowns and wins games. But not everything was perfect. Calvin Austin III left the game with a shoulder injury, though he reassured fans afterward that he was fine, calling it a great dub in Dublin. His absence forced the Steelers to test their receiver depth, and what we saw was revealing. Roman Wilson, just 3 snaps. Instead, Scotty Miller got the call. That raises real questions about whether Pittsburgh trusts Wilson to step up as a number 2 option. Could the team look outside for reinforcements? Deontay Johnson's name is out there. Odell Beckham Jr. has ties to Rodgers and has reportedly spoken with the team before, and veterans like Nelson Agholor, DJ Chark, or even Robert Woods could all be considered. The fact that these conversations are surfacing tells you the front office may be bracing for Austin to miss more time. Other injury updates gave fans reasons to breathe a little easier. Brandon Echols left the game late, but it turned out to be severe cramping rather than anything structural, and he should be ready after the bye. Jalen Ramsey, though, was in and out with a tight hamstring. He managed to return, which is encouraging, but Pittsburgh will monitor him closely. With Cleveland on the schedule in Week 6, there's at least some cushion. If Ramsey needs to sit, the Browns' offense isn't exactly terrifying. But for the bigger matchups looming against Cincinnati and Green Bay, Pittsburgh will need him at full strength. Game balls went out to the Stars, and deservedly so. Metcalf for his explosive plays, Gainwell for stepping up when everyone counted him out, Benton and Herbig for wreaking havoc in the trenches, and Deshaun Elliott for returning from injury with an interception and multiple pass breakups that reminded everyone why he's such a difference maker in the secondary. Darnell Washington also deserves a nod. His blocking opened up lanes in the run game, and he chipped in catches as well. When the offensive line follows his lead, good things happen. And speaking of the line, credit goes to the entire unit for one of their best outings of the season. They moved bodies, they created space, and they gave Rodgers the time he needed. Still, not all was flawless. Isaac Seumalo's struggles in pass protection remain a concern, with 2 pressures leading directly to sacks. And then there's Mike Tomlin's game management, an ongoing storyline that reared its head again. Questionable calls in critical moments, like a baffling decision to kick a field goal at the 2-yard line and odd timeout usage on special teams. The kind of decisions that could have cost them, if not for the defense slamming the door in the final minutes. When you zoom out, though, what stands out is that this Steelers team feels different from last year. Instead of fading as the season goes on, they're building momentum. They're 3-1, they just delivered for the Rooney family in Ireland, and they did it with a mix of veterans leading the way and young players proving they belong. For once, it feels like the arrow is pointing up in Pittsburgh. So here's the question for you, Steelers Nation. Who was the MVP of this game? Was it DK Metcalf with his highlight reel touchdown, Kenneth Gainwell with his breakout performance, or maybe one of the defensive disruptors who made wins miserable all afternoon? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. And here's where things get even more intriguing, Steelers Nation, the depth of this roster and the way certain players are starting to blossom right before our eyes. Think about what this game revealed. The offense is no longer one-dimensional, and the defense, even with some key injuries, is finding ways to bend without breaking. That balance is what championship-caliber teams are built on, and you could feel it in Dublin. Let's take a deeper dive into Aaron Rodgers because his presence changes everything. He's not asked to be the gunslinger he once was in Green Bay, but instead the steady hand this franchise desperately needed. For weeks into the season, and Rodgers has been exactly that, poised, efficient, calm in the pocket, and in complete command of the offense. He doesn't force throws, he reads defenses quickly, and when he has a weapon like DK Metcalf streaking across the middle, he knows exactly how to exploit mismatches. His touchdown pass to Metcalf wasn't just a play, it was a statement that this offense can hit you anywhere on the ground, with short gains, or in one explosive strike. The coaching staff deserves a nod here too. Arthur Smith's game plan finally opened up the middle of the field, something critics have been begging for. By moving Metcalf into the slot and using crossing routes, they unlocked the kind of plays that punish defenses for playing too safe. Combine that with Washington's blocking, Connor Hayward's versatility, and the improved performance of the offensive line, and suddenly this unit looks dangerous. Gainwell's success wasn't just about him running hard, it was about holes being created, the line pushing defenders back, and Smith calling plays that kept Minnesota guessing. But let's not overlook the defense, because that side of the ball had its own heroes. Keanu Benton was a wrecking ball inside, disrupting Carson Wentz's timing and collapsing the pocket. Pair that with Nick Herbig off the edge, and it felt like Wentz couldn't escape no matter where he moved. Herbig's dominance against Darisaw wasn't just impressive, it was eye-opening. When Highsmith returns, Tomlin and Terrell Austin are going to have a good problem on their hands, how to keep Herbig involved without disrupting the chemistry. Based on what we've seen, he's earned a permanent role. And then there's Peyton Wilson. His hustle play at the goal line might have been the single most important snap of the game. Lesser players give up on that play, but Wilson didn't. He chased it down, stopped a sure touchdown, and forced the Vikings to eat up more clock. That one effort changed the final sequence entirely, and it showed growth from a young linebacker who was heavily criticized earlier in the year. If Wilson continues to channel that energy, he can become one of the tone setters on this defense. Now, not everything is rosy. The wide receiver depth chart is a legitimate concern. Calvin Austin's shoulder injury, while seemingly not catastrophic, leaves the team thin behind Metcalf. Roman Wilson's 3 snaps say a lot about how the staff views him right now, and Scotty Miller filling in tells us this coaching staff doesn't quite trust the rookie yet. That's why the names floating out there, Odell Beckham Jr., Deontay Johnson, Nelson Aguilar, DJ Chark, Robert Woods, matter. This front office knows they can't waste Rodgers' arm talent or Metcalf's dominance by being one injury away from disaster. Don't be surprised if a move happens soon, especially if Austin is ruled out for multiple weeks. And we can't avoid the topic of Mike Tomlin. His game management nearly overshadowed a dominant performance. The decision-making late in the game, settling for a field goal when a touchdown could have iced it, the questionable timeout before the onside kick, had fans pulling their hair out. It's the same storyline we've seen for years. Tomlin the motivator, Tomlin the leader, but Tomlin the in-game strategist remains inconsistent. The difference this time? The players were good enough to overcome it. But if the Steelers want to beat Baltimore, Buffalo, or Kansas City down the line, these errors can't continue. Still, context matters. This wasn't just a win, it was a win with meaning. The Rooney family had long dreamed of this game in Ireland, a homecoming of sorts honoring their deep ties to Dublin. The Steelers didn't just show up, they delivered for the franchise, for the ownership, and for fans around the world. It was a moment where history met performance, and Pittsburgh rose to the occasion. Now, as the team heads into the bye week, there's reason for optimism. A 3-1 start, an offense beginning to find rhythm, a defense forcing turnovers and harassing quarterbacks, and a roster that's proving deeper than many expected. The road ahead isn't easy. Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Green Bay loom large, but this team looks far better equipped than the one we saw stumbling out of the gates last season. So I'll leave it with you, Steelers Nation. What's the biggest takeaway from Dublin? Is it Rodgers proving he's the steady hand we've needed? Is it Metcalf's dominance showing he's worth every penny? Is it Gainwell stepping in and proving this team can survive without Jalen Warren? Or maybe it's the defense, with Benton, Herbig, and Wilson emerging as young stars ready to carry the torch? Let me know in the comments how you see this win shaping the season, because one thing's for sure, the Steelers aren't just winning games, they're building belief. And if we're being honest, belief is something this fan base has been craving. Last season left too many questions unanswered, too many weeks where the team looked like it was grinding gears instead of finding rhythm. But what happened in Dublin feels different. It wasn't just a win, it was the kind of performance that hints at something bigger, a blueprint of what this team could become when everything clicks. Think about the contrast. Early in the year, the offense was labeled predictable, conservative, unable to push defenses. Yet in this game, we saw variety, creativity, and confidence. The middle of the field was finally attacked. The run game complemented the pass, and the offensive line looked cohesive. Even the receivers were blocking with more intensity downfield.